We'll call this regularly scheduled meeting of Bridgewater Town Council to order. Welcome, everybody. This is normally the size of the crowd we have every week, so all the other people must be away today, but thanks for coming. We'll start with, are there any additions or deletions to the agenda? Hearing none, we'll declare the agenda as approved. I'll just let everyone know that Councillor McGuinness is feeling under the weather, so he decided to stay home instead of making the rest of us sick, so I thanked him very much for that. Announcements from members of council before we get into the awards presentations. Anything? Councillor Vergier.
Yes, I have a few for the events upcoming at our Des Brisets Museum. So scheduled for January 19th is Model Shipbuilders. All are welcome. It's free. Donations are accepted. On January 26th, it's Woods of Wonder. February 2nd, they have Commercial Industrial History of Bridgewater with Peter Oikel. And on February 9th, it's The Machine with Clark Bissell. So you can check out the Des Brisets Museum's website for those upcoming events.
Great. Councillor Graves.
I'd just like to remind everybody that Maritime Bus is offering a new bus service from Halifax down to Lunenburg County. So 3 times daily, 7 days a week, you can go between Bridgewater, Lunenburg, Mahone Bay, Chester, and Hubbards to Halifax. But you can also take the bus to go from Mahone Bay to Bridgewater, or Bridgewater to Lunenburg as well. So something you may want to consider for the kids. A great opportunity to go up to Halifax for the day. You don't have to go with your mom and dad. Just hop on the bus, provided with permission, of course.
Thank you. Any other announcements from members of council? Anything else? No? Just quickly, we have a Smart Cities open house this Thursday at the LCLC from 2 till 3. 2 till 3, right? I'm looking at our Director of Planning, yes. So I thought the timing was actually quite good. I received a letter from the Federal Minister of Infrastructure congratulating us on being a Smart Cities Challenge finalist. They received 130 submissions. We've narrowed it down to 5 in our category. I'm not going to read this whole letter. I'm just going to read this part that says, your preliminary proposal stood out and our diverse and talented jury recognized that it is an exemplary embodiment of how a smart cities approach has the potential to achieve meaningful outcomes for residents. You are now leading the way in exploring the promise of smart city solutions for Canadian communities. So sometimes we get the whole, well, you're a little town of 8,700 people, but we don't feel that way. We compete with cities of all sizes, and this is just another example of why Bridgewater is so awesome. The other letter I'm going to read is from Rory, who's 6. I got this letter this week, so I'm going to read it because I promised I would read it. And it's from a citizen, so council should hear a letter from citizens anyway. So it says, Dear Mayor Mitchell, my name is Rory Patterson. The old bridge looks so pretty decorated for Christmas. I was wondering why we don't decorate the new bridge too. It would look so festive. Please consider decorating the new bridge next Christmas. Happy New Year. Thank you, Rory Patterson, age 6. I got a little Christmas tree picture too. So I went and visited Rory, and I told Rory that we would be bringing this up to council for future consideration. So just tuck that away. We'll add that to a future agenda to discuss decorating the new bridge in future years. So there you go.
Just a comment on that. I think it's pretty cool that the mayor took the time to personally visit this little girl and personally deliver a thank you note. So I think that was pretty good. So kudos. Yeah.
Thank you. I wonder if we can just keep everyone here and we'll move the presentations to the end. You guys want to stay for like another hour and a half, right? This is exciting. It's fun. We don't get very many visitors. All right. We'll dive into the Achievement Awards, and I'm going to turn it over to Deputy Mayor Tanner, who's going to read out the names and what they're for, and then you can come up and hopefully someone will take pictures.
Sounds good. So is the Bridgewater Chill 14 under girls Tier 1 provincial volleyball champions here by any chance? Yeah. All right. The Bridgewater Chill under 14 girls team won the provincial Tier 1 championships that took place April 20 to 22, 2018. Olivia Keys and Jade O'Toole were named to the All-Star team, as well as Laura Campbell, who was also the tournament MVP. Mayor Mitchell has a plaque to present. There's a lot of names here. Mayor Mitchell has a plaque to present, so if you guys want to come down, whoever makes up that team. So the 2018 Volleyball Nova Scotia 1400 Girls Tier 1 Provincial Champions. Jade O'Toole, Nikki Oikel, Alexis Rasmussen, Tia Damone, Corinne Dandremont, Marjana Kalau, Sarah Johnson, Laura Campbell, Olivia Keys, Addie Scott, Evelyn Ferguson, Niobe Baird, and Coach Susan Cross, and Assistant Coach Megan Ernst. This could double as the Barracuda swim team, I think, as well. But anyway. So we'll get some pictures. Parents, if you want to come up and take pictures, go for it as well. Oh. Perfect. All right. And Olivia, Jade, and Laura, you may as well stay up here because I think you've got medallions as well. So there's 3 medallions to be presented. 2018 Volleyball Nova Scotia Provincial 1400 Girls Tier 1 All-Star Team, Olivia Keys. 2018 Volleyball Nova Scotia Provincial 1400 Girls Tier 1 All-Star Team, Jade O'Toole. And 2018 Volleyball Nova Scotia Provincial 1400 Girls Tier 1 All-Star Team, Laura Campbell. Congratulations, ladies. More family photos. Congratulations. All right, is the Bridgewater Chill 16 and under girls Tier 1 provincial volleyball champions. Any of those folks here? The Provincial Chill under 16 girls team won the provincial Tier 1 champions that took place in April 2022-2018. Mia Hartling and Bella Noble were named to the All-Star team, as well as Nahara Gilbert, who was also the tournament MVP. Mayor Mitchell has a plaque that's inscribed 2018 Volleyball Nova Scotia 16 under girls Tier 1 champions. And if you want to come down, Bella Noble, Maddie Han, Janica Chevary, Ella Shooten, Kaylin Risser, Abby Rayfuse, Mia Hartling, Helena Gow, and Nahara Gilbert. Coaches Derek Now, Marcus Knoll, and Ashley Smith as well. They're all so tall. They're all so tall.
Yeah, I know.
Kind of important.
Parents, any photos? Yeah.
Oh, they're on it.
All right. Good.
Good.
Perfect. All right. And if Mia, Bella, and Nahara would stay up, so there's 3 medallions. 2018 Volleyball Nova Scotia Provincial 1600 Girls Tier 1 All-Star Team, Mia Hartling. 2018 Volleyball Nova Scotia Provincial 1600 Girls Tier 1 All-Star Team, Bella Noble. And 2018 Volleyball Nova Scotia Provincial 1600 Girls Tier 1 All-Star Team, Nahara Gilbert. Congratulations. All right. Rachel Hopkins. She's here somewhere. I thought, there she is. Come on down. Rachel is a member of the under-15 Bridgewater Chill volleyball team who won a silver medal at the 2018 Volleyball Nova Scotia Tier 1 Championships that took place April 27 to 29, 2018, where she was named to the Provincial Tier 1 All-Star Team. Mayor Mitchell is presenting a medallion inscribed 2018 Volleyball Nova Scotia Provincial 15 under Girls Tier 1 All-Star Team, Rachel Hopkins. Congratulations, Rachel. Perfect. And last but certainly not least, the Pee Wee Seahawks Tier 1 Provincial Football Champions. So the Pee Wee Seahawks football team defeated Dartmouth Destroyers 16-14 at St. Mary's University Football Field on November 17, 2018, and won the Provincial Tier 1 Champions, the first provincial title for the Seahawks organization. Big one. So as I read your names, come on down. So the plaque that Mayor Mitchell is going to present is inscribed 2018 Football Nova Scotia Pee Wee Tier 1 Provincial Champions. Noah Amos, Noah Wagner, Janelle Boudreau, Carson Rayfuse, Jack Slomwhite, Mookie Dickens, which I think is the coolest name ever, Ben Inglis, Elias McPhee, Caden Innes, Austin Greek, Fisher Genge, Bradley Bond, Anthony Gallant, Jordan Ehrenberg, Zach Little, Teo Ferrolino, Mitchell Inglis, Malachi Smith-Kolb, Riley Wenzel, Ashton McDonald, Maddox Brown, Chase Krause, Lucas Kazera, Sabella Murray, and head coach James Dickens, coaches Danny McPhee, Shane Slomwhite, Samantha Dickens, Eli Langell, and Christian Dickens. See if we can crowd you all in. Congratulations, folks. How are you doing?
Congratulations to congratulations to everybody. Thank you for reading those.
No worries.
All right, as we continue on, we have the minutes from December 10th, regular council meeting before you. Any errors, omissions, anything from council? Hearing none, we'll deem the minutes approved.
Okay.
I don't want to do anything else now. Just trying to skip ahead to wait for the people to clear out before we did delegation. Okay, we've got two delegations, and we're right on time. So I'll ask Stephanie Mailman-Krause to come down, and she's going to give a presentation on the Pine Grove Outdoor Play Association and their splash pad project. As we, there we go. Wait for our technology to arrive. We should have some, like a background soundtrack or something that goes while we're waiting. It's all right. All right, why don't we knock off a couple of these issues while we're waiting for technology to warm up? So if you don't mind, why don't we go down to reports and recommendations and just look at the 2019-2020 budget process. So you have a timeline in front of you. It's quite similar to what we did last year. Obviously, we can adjust things as we see fit. If we need more meetings, we can do that. But the schedule does mimic last year's, with public budget discussions really starting at the end of March, hoping to wrap up the final budget presentation by the end of April. Are there any questions from council on that? Or Director of Finance, any questions? No? Someone prepared to make a motion?
I would move the Town Council for the Town of Bridgewater endorse the proposed 2019-2020 budget process and preliminary schedule as follows, outlined in document 18-181. Monday, March 25th, regular council meeting. Discussion of preliminary capital budget. April 1st, budget meeting, budget discussion and debate. Monday, April 8th, regular council meeting, budget discussion and debate. Monday, April 15th, budget meeting, budget discussion and debate. And Tuesday, April 23rd, regular council meeting, budget discussion and approval.
Have a seconder, please. Seconded by Councilor Frazier. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Those opposed? Motion is carried. And then we'll go back to our regular item and welcome the group to give a presentation on the Pine Grove Outdoor Play Park.
Mayor, councillors, thanks for having us this evening. My name is Ruth Walwyn, and I'm a member of the Pine Grove Outdoor Play Park Association.
And I'm Stephanie. I've been an active member with the association since 2017. So we just wanted to give a little history of the Pine Grove Park. It's located a couple minutes just back past Walmart in a subdivision called Charlie Lane. So the Volunteer Association was formed in 2011 to create a play park for the community and surrounding areas. The park is ready to use with a rink for skating in the winter and ball hockey in the summer, swings, other play equipment, a field with soccer nets, basketball court, walking trail, gazebo, fire pit, barbecue, and washroom facilities. Just some pictures here of construction of the park in 2011 when the outdoor rink was installed. This year we've had a great season so far. The ice conditions have been fantastic. We keep the public informed regarding ice conditions through posts on Facebook, and we engage with the public through the site regarding projects and other improvements. So the park is used daily by a variety of age groups from all areas of Lunenburg County. This park created a safe, clean, secure environment for the community to enjoy and be active. We have a vibrant group of volunteers where someone knows someone or they have the expertise to do things that need to be done. These individuals want no recognition for what they do and contributing what they can. Along with support from the municipality of the District of Lunenburg, we have support from surrounding schools, United Way, the Community Health Board, and Communities Culture and Heritage. Many local businesses and residents have supported the park through donations of material and labor. We have a wall of honor highlighting all the individuals and businesses that contribute to the park on the outside of the rink. We have many fundraisers over the year to support improvement projects at the park. We have events throughout the year, including an annual volunteer day where park maintenance and things like painting, gardening is done by the team, and we recognize everyone for their hard work throughout the year. In December, the last 2 years, we've hosted a Celebrate the Season event where we bring everyone together during the busy season to enjoy. We are here today because we want to talk about the future plan for the park, which includes a splash pad. A splash pad is an outdoor play area with sprinklers, fountains, nozzles, and other devices or structures that spray water. The picture here is the design of the splash pad we are looking to install. We've had feedback from the community that this would be a great addition to the park. Splash pads are accessible to all ages and to people with all levels of ability. They're designed with safety in mind with zero depth, therefore no risk of drowning and no requirements of lifeguard supervision. Through installation of a splash pad, it would encourage year-round use of the park, and we're looking to pique interest of families in the area by providing more warm water activities.
So benefits for the park. The park's going to benefit not only the immediate community of Pine Grove, but the residents for the town of Bridgewater are going to see benefits as well. Our park is free to access, and accessing the splash pad will be free as well. Remaining financially accessible to the members that we're serving in the various communities is really important to our association. The Pine Grove Road actually has bike lanes, so biking to our park is an option for people that might not have another form of transportation. A splash pad encourages exercise, but it also encourages community engagement. We partner with MODL's recreational department to put on various community events throughout the year. Our aim for the park is basically to create a park that appeals to all ages with a variety of interests. So for costs, we have a well on site and we've performed water testing. So our water is potable. That means that an additional filtration system for the well isn't required for when we install the splash pad. We currently have 3 quotes from 3 different companies. The lowest came in from a company called Vortex. That's at $68,367.50. As for funding, we're working with Debbie Smith, the South Shore Regional Recreation Manager with the Department of Communities, Culture, and Heritage. So we're working on a recreation facility development grant, and if successful, we could be awarded 1/3 of our project cost. Another grant we're working with Debbie towards is the Community Recreation Grant. That could cover another 1/3 of our project costs, and if successful, we can stack those grants, so we could potentially have up to 2/3 of our project costs covered. Recently, we've submitted an application for the Community Health Board grant, and if successful for that, we would have $3,000 towards our project. As for fundraising, we've completed a walk-run fundraising event in September, an Epicure fundraiser, and we also partnered with Caldwell Banker back in November for the Dance the Night Away event, and we have continued support from MODL for this project. In regards to maintenance for our splash pad, we have volunteers and we have a little bit of paid maintenance, and going forward, this is what we hope to continue. Our committee meets regularly, and currently we're working on a checklist so that we can ensure safety is consistent throughout the year. We're aware of projects such as the Bridgewater Skate Park that actually resides within the town and has received financial support from MODL. And we believe this is because the municipality sees the benefits of a recreational outlet that their residents can access. So in presenting to you today, our association is hoping you see and understand the benefits a splash pad could have for the residents of Bridgewater. It's a low-cost option that creates, that allows people to, that encourages physical activity, but it also encourages community engagement. Therefore, our association is requesting support in the amount of $10,000. We ask that council consider our funding request as part of its 2019-2020 budget plan. We thank you for your time and your consideration of our funding request. If you have any questions, Stephanie or I would be more than willing to answer them.
Great, thank you. Questions from members of council? Councillor Thorburn.
You had 3 quotes. Is any of those local, or are they all from away?
They would all be from away. The contractor that we would be looking to work with is from Kendall.
Okay, great.
And he would subcontract, and yes, locally.
Okay.
Further questions?
Good
No,
idea.
that's good. Oh, Deputy Mayor Taylor.
So have you received financial commitment from MODL as of yet, or is that part of?
Yes, we
Okay.
have. What I think
Oh,
is-
for MODL, we have about 22,000 towards our goal. And actually, I did, I skipped the slide that reviews where we currently stand. We currently have $28,968 of our $70,000 goal. It's our little thermometer up there, but almost halfway there.
So maybe my math's not right, but if you get the 2 grants, aren't you completely paid for?
That's if we get
Yeah. Sure. No.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay. No.
No,
Okay.
no, you're right.
Okay.
We know that Lunenburg is also going forward with their plans for a splash pad. So depending on how they allocate those grants, I don't know if it's by geographic region, but it's better safe than sorry.
Okay.
Great. So the request has been made. This will be added to our 2019-2020 budget deliberations, and we'll work through the process.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next delegation is here, I believe. Sarah Tennant, Nicole Hartman, and Ashley Buckle from the Canadian Women's Heart Health Center, the Wear Red Canada.
Excellent. So thank you, Mayor and councillors, for having us here tonight. We're going to start by introducing ourselves and then telling you a little bit about the event and telling you then what we hope, how we can work together to make this a really wonderful event. So I'm Sarah Tennant. I'm an emergency room doctor at South Shore Regional Hospital as well as Fisherman's Hospital in Lunenburg.
And I'm Ashley Buckle. I'm a registered nurse at the Fisherman's Memorial Emergency Department. And my specialty is actually in cardiovascular care. So this is an initiative that has like personal passion and meaning for me. But what's also unique is we have a patient, a former patient of ours with us tonight who can bring her experience as well. And having lived through watching her go through her experience with a heart attack at such a young age and being female, it does make it even more meaningful to me personally and to us involved in this initiative.
My name is Nicole Hartman Nickerson. I am a volunteer with the Heart and Stroke Foundation. I also sit on the Patient Advisory Committee for the Ottawa Women's Heart Health Alliance. I have survived 2 heart attacks. My last heart attack was 1 year ago, last week, when I was pregnant with my son. So, and I also lost my sister at 25 to heart disease.
So Wear Red Canada Day is important to all of us, and it's brought on by the Canadian Women's Heart Health Alliance, which is a volunteer network. So nobody kind of gets paid for this event. And what we're hoping is that on February 13th, to have a wonderful event here in Bridgewater. It's going to be from 4 to 6 p.m. at the Atlantic Superstore. So our ask number 1 is maybe that we get that somehow in the minutes and that you're all invited to this event, and we would love to see at least one of you, but would like to see all of you there. So this, the vision of the Canadian Women's Heart Health Alliance is to improve women's cardiovascular health across the lifespan. But we also invite men to the event because many of the risk factors for heart disease are shared among men and women. And I think most men in here would have a loved one that is female, whether it be a grandmother, a mother, a wife, a sister, or a daughter. And it's really important that we take this seriously because heart disease is the #1 killer of women worldwide, and it affects women of all ages. And heart attacks. And so I guess the difference as a physician, the difference between men and women is that heart attacks go unrecognized in women up to 54% of the time, which is huge. So this event that we're having, the Wear Red Canada, is to bring some attention to this, to make women and their loved ones aware of things that they can do to prevent heart disease and the signs and symptoms to recognize the heart disease. In Nova Scotia, an average of 2 women per day have a heart attack. Half of stroke patients are women in Nova Scotia. 15,000 women a year have heart attacks in Nova Scotia. This is a big deal. In Lunenburg County, Ashley has done a fair bit of research, and last year went out to Vancouver to present some of her research. Lunenburg County has the highest rates of heart disease in Nova Scotia. So this is something.
The southern, South Shore. Yeah, the southern part of the province.
Or yeah, the Western District, or as it used to be known, has the highest. So this is something we need to make people more aware of. Our event is going to feature some interactive booths on reducing risk factors, including information and displays on healthy eating, physical activity, smoking cessation, healthy sleep patterns. There's going to be a dietitian there. It's already been a really neat event because it's allowed many people from different professions to get together and talk about how we can improve heart health care on the South Shore. So it's going to be very interdisciplinary, and it's going to be a great event for people to come out. So we started brainstorming and thinking, how can we get people to this event? And we believe strongly that the town of Bridgewater is doing some wonderful things, and we thought, well, wait, I wonder if they would be interested in helping us get people to the event. And we think the bus is a really neat thing to have in Bridgewater, and so we were kind of hoping that you would consider allowing us to let people get to the event on the bus. There's a bus stop right across from the Superstore, so it works quite well. And on that afternoon, if people were wearing red, perhaps they could get on the bus we're hoping for free, because this is a volunteer event. None of us are getting paid for this. We have a very, 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 very small budget, which we're using for some food, like coffee, tea, water. Don't expect a buffet. It's going to be a very small amount of food that we're hoping to have there. So we don't have much to offer you guys as far as monetary things, but I think what you will get from this event is it's a national event. Lots of social media attention. So, I mean, this is going to go across Canada, and if there's people, getting on a Bridgewater bus wearing red, people are going to go, hey, I didn't realize that, Bridgewater had a bus. Maybe it'll get more people to move down to this area. I think it'll draw attention to what a wonderful place we live in. And then the other thing is I think as the town and like the municipality, you guys are doing wonderful things to help get people active and to encourage decreased risk factors. So we were hoping that you might as well give us some of your recreation guides, or maybe there's somebody who from MODL or the town that wants to be there to help talk about some of the events that you guys have planned. There's a walking group, there's some lifestyle events, stress reduction. I mean, I think basically everything in that recreation guide could help decrease people's risk for heart disease. The snowshoeing events, I mean, there's so much in there. So my hope is that maybe you'd consider at least providing us with some recreation guides. And if you wanted to have a couple people come down, we would be more than welcome to that as well. So I'm going to hand it over to my colleagues.
Or any other ideas that council might have to help promote our event. We will be coming out with, in the coming days, our social media strategy. So if anybody is on Twitter or Facebook or whatever, we will have places that you can go to hashtag us or follow us and things like that. So that would be great too. Like, anything you can think of to help us get people out, to bring awareness and attention to this issue so that we can help our communities be healthier in the area. All right, I think that's it. Any questions?
Questions from council? Deputy Mayor?
I know the YMCA used to do a program that was in partnership with the Health Services Center, obviously, but so is that still in place? And do you do anything with the LCLC as an example, with like swimming opportunities or skating opportunities, like active opportunities there, or rehabilitation type? Yeah.
Yeah, they still do have the cardiac rehab,
That's
and
right.
they're actually in partnership with us as well.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
but as far as I know, they don't have anything really in partnership with the LCLC other than the swimming classes. That would be
Sure.
through
Okay.
the
But that's a great idea.
That is.
I'm full of them.
Oh, so hard not to comment. Any other questions?
Great presentation.
Yeah,
Thank you.
and the timing is kind of coincides with the town's birthday.
Yeah.
So,
Happy birthday.
yeah.
Birthday, town.
Thank you.
And
We're-
Valentine's Day.
Thank you. We're 120. So thank you.
Oh, wow. That's great.
And then we'll leave it with staff to figure out the bus component of that. That could be a decision that staff can manage, and they'll, I'm sure, reach out and contact you.
Excellent.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any other members of the public that wish to speak as a delegation on any topics, not including the topics of the Victoria Road development, because there'll be a time for that later. But if there's any other delegations? No? All right, then we will move into, we already did minutes, so we'll move into planning items in the public hearing. Amendments to the municipal planning strategy, land use bylaw, and development agreement for 126 and 144 Victoria Road. So this is a public hearing, so I will declare the hearing now open, and note that the statutory requirements report has been circulated. And then we'll move this to our Director of Planning to run us through and give us her presentation.
Sorry.
Probably.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Before you tonight is final consideration of a proposal for amendments to the municipal planning strategy and land use bylaw, as well as a development agreement for the properties at the corner of Victoria Road and York Street. So the site is vacant, wooded, and bordered by York. See if I can orient myself here, York and Victoria Road. So the properties in total are 144 Victoria Road, 126 Victoria Road, and 229 York Street. It excludes the property, which is held in common ownership, but it excludes the existing single unit dwelling at 132. The site was previously used in conjunction with Mackenzie Bus Lines as a service and repair depot, and it's been vacant since 1998. So again, now that you've had the three properties in question, it excludes 132. All properties are owned by 3300657 Nova Scotia Limited, and the site itself is surrounded by a variety of mostly residential uses, single unit dwellings, some single unit converted dwellings that are now multiple units, such as 150 Victoria Road, and a 2-unit at 158, as well as a 12-unit apartment building here on St. Philip Street. And it's also bordered by St. Joseph's Cemetery, as well as across the street from Veterans Memorial Park and the Brookside Cemetery. Currently, the municipal planning strategy has designated all these properties as low-density residential, which is what was anticipated to be in the future. But the zoning for the properties in question is institutional at this point in time, which allows for a wide range of community uses and certain residential uses such as nursing homes, homes for special care, and residential care facilities. There are no density limits in the current institutional zoning, and height limits are greater than those in the R1 and R2 zone properties around it. The institutional zoning was placed on the property in 2001 at the request of the owner at that time. And at that point, the plan was to construct one or more nursing homes or residential care facilities on the site, but those uses were never pursued subsequent to the rezoning, so those properties still remain vacant. This is the proposed master site plan, and I'd like to first describe what the properties make up, sort of what is being proposed for all three properties, which is approximately 2.45 acres in area. So the original application was just for 144 Victoria Road, and it was made by Frontline Properties for a 30-unit dwelling on a 1-acre portion of the lot. Property 144 Victoria Road is actually slightly larger than 1 acre in total, and so if I can follow it here with the little laser, sort of shows that it extends and also includes this shared stormwater there. So the application included stormwater to be shared with the remaining properties, along with some shared driveway access for the properties on York Street. And during the analysis of this application, concern was raised with the impact of the 30-unit dwelling with a density of 30 units per acre in relation to wastewater generation. And so it was determined that the potential wastewater implications of the proposal with the shared stormwater management and the shared access really necessitated us to look at the property as a whole and to understand what could be allowed for the entire property so that we could plan it comprehensively.
So at that point, an addendum to the application was made in October to include a proposal for the corner lots as well, so for 126 and Victoria Road and 229 York Street. So in addition to the 30-unit dwelling with the stormwater, there's a concept proposal, and it's conceptual only at this point, but proposed that the owner for this property in the future would like to do a 4-unit building in between the existing single unit and the corner, and the proposal here, and then to do some mixed commercial residential on the corner lots. So in order to facilitate this master site plan, a number of amendments are needed to the municipal planning strategy and the land use bylaw, as well as a development agreement. So I'm going to proceed to describe each of these components in order as clearly as I can. It is a complex application. So the proposed 30-unit dwelling at 144 Victoria Road. This is an elevation drawing that shows 3-story building, approximately 50 foot to the pitch of the roof. The cladding is in a variety of tones. It'll be clad wood, metal, and vinyl with vertical and horizontal orientation. All 30 units are 1 bedroom as per a signed agreement with Housing Nova Scotia, the provincial housing authority, and will remain affordable for a period of 15 years. And that includes, within those 30 units, 10 units that will have a rent supplement agreement. So that is then in partnership with the Western Region Housing Authority and the wait list for affordable housing there. The target market is seniors, but it's not exclusive. And there's common amenity space on each floor in the central area of the building that includes laundry facilities, various seating and gathering areas. The building is accessible, there is an elevator provided, and 2 units will be fully accessible for someone to live in fully accessibly, but all units will also be visitable. So visitable means that someone with mobility challenges is able to visit that apartment and use most of the spaces, but perhaps not all within it. So this is the site plan for the proposed 30-unit building, and it shows the basic layout of the building on the 1-acre site here. So the building footprint is 8,350 square feet, which gives it a lot coverage of approximately 19%. It's set back from Victoria Road by 95 feet, and so that's from there to Victoria Road. But from there to the rear property line of 150 Victoria Road is actually only 11 feet. And then it's set back from St. Philip Street by, from the cemetery by about 69 and a half feet. But again, it's a little bit closer to the buildings that are there on St. Philip Street. There is a driveway from the rear parking area along the front of the building to get to Victoria Road, and there will be a walkway as well. There's parking spaces provided with at least 2 accessible spaces at the entrance of the building, and the stormwater catchment area is just here, that again will be shared with the remainder of the properties. The landscaping plan shows additional details of the site plan. So there's going to be a treed buffer along the southwest side where it abuts the properties on St. Philip Street. There will be fencing where it abuts the property at 150 Victoria Road. As well as buffering, there'll be fencing here to buffer from the neighboring property on York Street. An amenity area is provided to the rear of the building with the gazebo and planter boxes for use by the residents. There'll be bicycle parking for 10 bicycles for use by residents and visitors, and a concrete pathway to allow direct and safe access to Victoria Road. There's also provision for a sign to identify the building out here at Victoria Road. So in reviewing the policies that we have in place, how does this stack up against our policies? The site was a vacant brownfield site located close to the downtown area and represents a strategic location for residential infill and development. We feel it achieves a limited amount of residential intensification on a site that has convenient access to a variety of services, commercial uses, open space areas, and recreational uses. And the placement of the 30-unit building on this site sort of makes efficient use of this long, narrow site that goes back from the main street. The 4-unit dwelling that's proposed in the concept will help complete the streetscape portion of Victoria Road. We feel it increases housing choice available in town by providing 30 modest and affordable units targeted but not exclusively for seniors. And in the conceptual 4-unit building here, there'll be 4 two-bedroom units, which again would appeal to a variety of residents. Although the size of 30-unit building is larger than the adjacent buildings, its architectural style is unique, and the adjacent residential uses feel it's been integrated, it's proposed to be integrated into the area with appropriate landscape buffering and setbacks. The water and wastewater infrastructure are adequate to support a total of 34 units between the 2 buildings, so that's the 4 units here and the 30 units there. Stormwater will be managed on site through the shared stormwater, and it is to be less, so the stormwater generated by the development has to be less than or equal to the existing peak stormwater flows on the site right now. So there'll be a more detailed stormwater management plan at the time of development permit issuance. Victoria Road is an arterial road and as such has sufficient capacity to deal with the traffic generated from 34 units. And we don't feel the residential uses will produce any adverse environmental effects. So it sort of completes our review of the policy piece. So what does that mean in terms of being able to enable it? The amendments that are required to enable this are redesignation from low-density residential to comprehensive residential. And that will enable the rezoning of the property from institutional to comprehensive residential. The 30-unit affordable dwelling would be developed by a development agreement, which is enabled in the comprehensive residential zone. And the density of this building to 30 units per acre is enabled as long as at least 3 of those units are affordable at all times, so that the bonus zoning policy kicks in to enable those 30 units in total. The 4-unit dwelling could be developed by site plan approval at a later date, so it's not included in the proposed development agreement at this point in time. And a 1 or 2 unit dwelling could be developed as a right in place of that 4-unit at any point. The development agreement provisions, the draft development agreement included in the staff report sets out the details to be agreed upon between the applicant and council. And it limits the development to a maximum of 34 over the full property. So even after Frontline Properties, who's made the application for the 30 unit, subdivides and purchases the 1 acre parcel, the maximum density cap remains at 34 over the entire site between so there's detailed provisions for the 30-unit dwelling, which must be built to be substantially in conformance with the plans that have been provided with the application. So that includes the mass, the height, setbacks, building materials, landscaping, parking, access, and amenity spaces. Any increase in dwelling units for the total property beyond 34 would require a whole new development agreement. And the development agreement also requires a stormwater catchment area to service all properties over the entire larger site as per the master site plan. The 30-unit building is only enabled, as I said earlier, if 3 of those units remain affordable housing as per the bonus zoning policy. In order for the proposal to get to development permit issuance, there is some additional information that is to be provided that we don't have at this point, which is an assessment of the detailed stormwater design and assessment of any remaining or potential contamination from the previous industrial commercial use, a detailed proposal of the driveway onto Victoria Road, which ensures safe access and egress can be provided. So those things must be approved by the town engineer before can proceed further. So substantive amendments, which would require basically a whole new DA, relate to anything changing the number of use, so any increase in dwelling units above 34, being a bit repetitive at this point. Any reduction in the setbacks, so the setbacks with 150 Victoria Road and the rear property lines to St. Philip Street, you would have to go through a whole new process to change those in any way to make them any less, so they can be greater than that, but they can't be any less than that. A non-substantive agreement that can come to council without a public process would be any other changes deemed not to be substantially in conformance with those items above. So the proposal for the corner is neighborhood commercial. So moving from the institutional zoning that it currently has to neighborhood commercial zoning. So unlike the previous detailed proposal for 144 Victoria Road for the 30-unit building, the proposal for the remainder of the site is purely conceptual at this point. So the proposal is to construct mixed-use commercial and residential buildings along York Street, wrapping around the corner at Victoria Road. There'd be neighborhood commercial uses on the ground floor, and neighborhood commercial uses include personal service, neighborhood grocery and convenience, small offices, small restaurants. They're limited in size and scale and scope within the neighborhood commercial zone as it is currently written in the municipal planning strategy. In total, 1,400 square meters of space over both properties are being proposed. There are 14 apartment units proposed for the second floor, so it'd be personal, neighborhood commercial on the bottom, residential up top, and driveway access is off York Street, which is proposed to be linked to the Victoria Road driveway. The policy analysis of looking at changing this from institutional to neighborhood commercial, we reviewed this concept against the policies in our planning strategy. So again, this site is vacant brownfield site at a major intersection. It is a strategic location for a modest size neighborhood serving commercial area. The addition of residential units on the second floor is appropriate residential intensification, which provides a third type of dwelling unit option over this entire proposal. The requirements in the requested zoning, there are requirements in the neighborhood commercial zone for appropriate landscaping and other controls to minimize conflicts with adjacent residential uses. Again, we reviewed the services, so drinking water, wastewater in particular, and the services are adequate to support the residential and commercial uses on the site in conjunction with the development proposed at 144 Victoria Road. Stormwater, as per the first part of the application described, it'll be managed on site at that shared location. And again, they have to ensure that the peak flows from the site are less than or equal to the existing stormwater flows. The traffic implications for a driveway onto York Street also has to be assessed in more detail. And the location of this site at the intersection of York and Victoria support access of people to the site on foot, on bike, as well as by vehicle. There's an existing bike route on York Street. So the residential and neighborhood commercial uses aren't expected to produce any adverse environmental effects. So the amendments required to enable this, again, would be a redesignation from low-density residential to limited commercial. The rezoning would be from institutional to neighborhood commercial. And then we also have introduced some zone requirements to be met for the concept proposal. So they have to meet the existing zone requirements, but then we put in some site-specific text amendments to limit the dwelling units at these specific properties and to limit the commercial floor area to that 1,400 square meters. So any commercial or mixed-use proposal on these properties could then be considered by development agreement, by site plan, or by right, depending on the amount, type, and type of neighborhood commercial development and the number and type of residential units. So if it's as per the zone requirements right now, it could be as of right or site plan. The amendments are also enabling by development agreement these maximums on those specific properties. So these limits are part of the overall density limits that are being set for the larger site. So just to review that, so the crux of why we had to go and look at the entire site is that we need to limit the density on the site because as of right, with an institutional zoning, there is no density limit to the site. So it could be any number of residential home care, nursing care rooms. And the wastewater system couldn't handle an unlimited amount at that corner. So in order to find that balance with what the future plans are for the person who owns the property right now, they've submitted all of this for us to consider rezoning and making these amendments to really sort of lock down that density that would be enabled at those three properties on the corner. Make it a reasonable limit. We had two public participation meetings, one with the original application in July and another in November after the amended application. And the main issue that came up at both of those meetings was around traffic on Victoria Road. 2 residents attended the first meeting and 3 attended the second. We feel that we were able to then address the traffic concerns through the proposed amendments in the development agreement. So the staff recommendation is that Town Council approve the amendments to the municipal planning strategy, the redesignation of the properties, the amendments to the land use bylaw for the rezoning of those properties, the text amendments for the neighborhood commercial zone, including the site-specific amendments for 126 Victoria Road and 229 York Street, as well as the proposed development agreement for 144 Victoria Road.
Great, thank you. Questions from council to the Director of Planning? Councillor Thorburn.
Yeah, on one slide, you're showing 14 units on that York Street, and then on another slide, it's showing 16.
Yes.
And that makes it go from 48 total to 50. I don't know which one's correct.
Sorry,
I
I'm
think
just going
slide
to,
15 shows
Yep.
40, and slide 17 shows 16.
I'm going to let Shelley Dickey, who's the consultant planner who is working on the file in detail, respond to that.
Right, so the discrepancy is because the applicant has proposed 14 units.
Right.
But the way the zone is structured and the lot sizes and the number of buildings that you could have on the lot would allow it to be up to 16 units. So 14 in their concept proposal at this time, but 16 would be allowed by the zone, and 16 was set as the cap limit for the number of residential units on the site based on the density.
That's correct. So that would make the total project 50 units if everything falls to 30 or 16 and 4.
A maximum of 50
Maximum.
units, yes.
Yeah, okay. No, that makes sense. Thank you.
Further questions, Deputy Mayor Tanner?
The other larger development that we've had recently on Victoria has sort of I guess I'll call it weird, but I'm sure there's logic to it, of how you can exit that particular property. Will this be under the same sort of requirement because of the traffic on Victoria, or do you anticipate, or?
Turn over to the Traffic Authority.
There is a possibility.
Okay.
Their consultant is analyzing access and egress, and of course it would have to be approved by the town, but it is possible there might be conditions put on access and egress.
Okay. So there was no thought, I guess, of that exit, using that exit out of York, despite no development happening there, to make that a requirement, I guess? Or is it?
We're requesting the applicant do a more detailed traffic analysis before we can make those decisions,
Okay.
and those must be approved by the
Okay,
traffic
okay.
authority before it can move forward.
Understood. Okay.
Okay. Good question. Councillor Graves.
So the 11-foot setback from the apartment building to the property line seems still really, really low. Do you have any thoughts on that? Is that typical to have an 11-foot setback, particularly with such a large building?
So we did discuss that with the applicant and worked on potential changes to the site plan. But in terms of the number of parking spaces that we wanted to see on the site and the size of the building with the units, there was really no way of pulling the building any further north to the past the parking lot. So we would have lost more parking spaces, and the normal requirement for the size of building would be only 13 feet for a setback. So we felt that the 11 feet, given the limitations of the site for the development, would be adequate. The other consideration is that side of the building that's I don't know if we can put it.
Oh, sure.
The site plan. Yeah, so where we're looking at the 11-foot setback there, that side of the building has no windows from the suites that would be facing or overlooking the building at 150 Victoria Road. And most of the height of that building from that setback is roof, because the roof is very, very tall in this building. So we felt that in order that it was an acceptable trade-off to require the 11-foot setback, or to allow the 11-foot setback. Also, we require a fence in the development agreement to be placed between 150 Victoria Road and this building in order to further buffer the rear yard of 150 Victoria Road from the building.
What's the setback between the building or the property line, I guess, and the apartment building? Do you know what that would be?
Yes.
And then I guess the other question is, a lot of the services seem to be on the east side of the building, and would it not be possible to move the building further east and then having the road and everything else come on the west side? You know what I mean? So the building just move it east or to the right, and then all the services, so the road and everything, does that make any, you know what I'm saying? Just in terms of the setback, this,
Moving the building that way, right.
so to get to the parking lot at the north end, you have to pass by the east side. So
Yes.
if you move the building, shimmied it east, and then had the roads and everything come in on the west side, it would increase the setback. Because that's a big building. You have 3 stories, it's a big building. Just,
You're basically talking about just flipping it.
no, just moving it up, so, sorry. Just, this goes here, and then the road comes here, but you keep the space, you keep the parking, which is what you need. Just throwing it out there. But
Sure.
it increases the setback.
Right, so one thing I can say about that is that we require in the development agreement that the setback of the building to the rear yards of the St. Philip Street properties and 150 Victoria Road are a minimum. We haven't set a minimum for the setbacks for the other properties, or for the properties, say, bordering on York Street. So theoretically, that would be possible, and you would still meet the requirements of the development agreement in terms of setback. The plan would be slightly different than the plan that's been approved for the development agreement. But I'm not sure if it would be something we would have to look at with the applicant to see if that was practical in terms of
I'm just thinking of the
moving it
people that
way.
are there. That's all, I'm just thinking of them. I love the project. I think it's great for the town. And, kudos to the developers. If that could be a consideration, I think that would be a nice gesture.
Further questions from Councillor Thorburn?
Yeah, I know, we got a development going up where I live. How high is that security fence going to be? Is that going to be a 10-foot fence across there by the property lines, do you know?
It's to be a minimum of 6 feet.
Okay.
And made of wood, sorry. We're requiring a wooden fence, and it has to be opaque so that it's not,
Sure.
for instance, a picket fence.
I just thought we're so close, it could be a 10-foot fence to give them a little more privacy.
Could be.
So the minimum height of the
The
fence is
minimum
6, but it could be 8 or 10.
Yeah, could be 10 then, theoretically.
But it's still a big building. It's a tall building.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Further questions from council? No? Okay. I'll ask if the applicant or the developer has a presentation or anything that they would like to add. If yes, come on down. If no, that's okay. It's up to you.
Good evening. So I'll just speak to the idea of moving the road into the back of the building.
Yep.
First of all, it changes the whole site. We're trying to work with the jog that you can see in the property there. So moving that changes the whole project, changes the conceptual plan of on the rest of the land, and also, there would be a huge issue with elevations in the back of the building there. Like right now, from the point where we started this project and some of the things that we've had to consider, in the elevations there, it makes it challenging. So to bring that road in back, I think it would be, and again, don't get me wrong, but it's an affordable housing project. So, to have to go in there and excavate, to bring that down to acceptable grades, to put a road in there would just, it would really, it would be difficult. So, again, getting back to Shelley's compromise on 2 feet, I guess, that would be the major concern there. Would just be the elevations that we're working with and the grades on the parking, and so on. So again, you can see what we're working with there when you look at the jog and trying to fit that building and the parking into that jog. So That's kind of why we came up with that plan. I don't very often let this guy speak, so I apologize already.
If you guys could just give us your names too, just for the minutes. if you don't mind.
Sterling Stevens.
Brett Benoit. I think the other challenge we'd have moving that building to the right would be having the second access to York Street. I think that would cut down on having that option. So we'd be getting close to that access.
It was really just look at it and give it due consideration.
Yeah, I can see
again,
where.
I'm just thinking of the people that have been there for years, and 11 feet doesn't seem like that much. So.
Yeah, I can see your concern.
And I've never walked the site, so I'm not quite sure of the elevations. But
Yeah, like Sterling said, there is. We had some test holes left there, and there's pretty steep slope right there.
Once you put, and again with the elevations there, once you put even, depend on, and we're not opposed to 10 feet versus 6, but when you put the fence is already going to be up higher on a higher grade, so it's going to appear higher, than just a 6 foot or 8 foot, whatever it is, because it's already up on an elevation.
Okay, great, thank you.
Good, thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay, just remember this is a public hearing, so we have to go through the process. So the next, we're going to open this up to comments from the public. Now there is a format that we use, and that is that those making comment in favor of the proposal will go first, and those who are opposed to the proposal can go next. So if there's anyone who wants to speak in favor of the proposal, they can come to the microphone now. No? Okay. And if there's anyone opposed to the proposal, they can come down to the microphone now and speak. And just introduce yourself, please.
Okay, good evening. I'm Andre Hubley, and I'm here with my wife Rose. And this is the third meeting, and we've been to the first 2 meetings. And our big concern is traffic with Victoria Road, and where it's going to be shared development, and that's just a concept, that we had suggested last meeting that they both go together with a driveway to York, and we could really see that being a lot more safer. And well, with the changes or suggested changes here, you could, I don't know what they got developed planned, but we understand that they're sharing the wastewater treatment, and that's why we thought, well, if you're going to be sharing that, why don't you make your exit York Street? Because we've been on Victoria Road for 26 years, and it's getting very busy. And we back up now in the summertime, basically to the sharp turn at the cemetery gates. Traffic backs up. We see it stop there on a regular basis through the summer. And that goes right to the Fines Kind. And we suggested maybe a counter from July and October. We know you can't do it in the wintertime for plowing, but if a counter was put on there, probably would see the truth on the amount of traffic that Victoria Road has on it now. And if you add that into that block, it's going to be trouble. So if you put an exit to York Street, it would make it a lot more safer in our minds. And I'm not here opposed to it, and I'm not here to agree to it. So I had to go to the second choice, right? We believe in development, but it has to be safe, and Victoria Road does not have the space in our block that we feel would be safe to have 30, 34 units. And then if you start adding up on York Street, people have a habit, they'll use the same road. Now we may have 50 people wanting to come in and out of Victoria Road on one block. And we see a jam up down below on the sharp turn with the apartment complex down by the cemetery. And they're supposed to, from what I understand, go up the street to go in and go up the street to go out as well. Their exit and entrance is kind of baffling to me, but I guess it had to be done for the turn for safety. So I'm not going to stay here all night, but we really are concerned to have that many units and the possibility of that much added traffic to Victoria Road, because we don't want to honestly be the 4th block backed up all spring, summer, and fall, because the fact of it is the traffic does back up considerably a lot when you add tourist season and everything else, town events. So I thank you for your time.
Right. No, thank you for coming forward. So just, if I can just ask you another question, Jessica. So I just want to reconfirm what we're hearing is that the current proposal is that the York Street entrance does not necessarily come with the building. It's considered for when there's future development on that
Correct.
site.
At this point, it's this is sort of phase one, if you will. Yeah, so it's the single at 144 Victoria Road with access and egress. A plan approved by the traffic authority before it can go into motion, so it may have mitigating effects like the one further down Victoria Road, but at this point we can't exactly say what those mitigating measures might be. But right now it's the single point of access.
So if we're putting something together where we note that there may need to be a plan to mitigate the issues on Victoria Road.
Correct.
Could that plan be that the York Street entrance has to be created?
I will defer to the traffic authority to respond.
Or can it
first on
only
that.
be, you can only come in and out like the other units on Victoria Road? Do you know what I mean? How much can our mitigation plan be?
With regards to the acceptance of a access point, egress point, am I understanding your question? If it's deemed and proven that the single point of access egress from Victoria Road is possible, I think it would be difficult for us to dictate that another means is necessary. Without having that review study done, it's really hard to say whether or not there's going to be any limiting conditions. One of the things we did indicate is, we do have concerns about the proximity of the traffic lights, the impact on, vehicles, as indicated, the stopping as such as being necessary to be included in that analysis. So it's really difficult for us to say what and if any conditions are going to be applied to that access point on Victoria at this point.
Okay. And like you said, you don't have that information yet. Okay. Any other members of the public wanting to speak at this time? No? Okay. Then I will close the hearing and ask for council to put the motion on the first motion on the floor, and we can discuss and debate it. Someone's prepared to make that motion. Councillor Frazier.
Yes, Your Worship. I move that Town Council for the Town of Bridgewater enter into a development agreement regarding the property located.
Sorry, can you do the first one first?
Did I jump ahead? Sorry.
Just the one above that.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay.
That Town Council for the Town of Bridgewater give final consideration and approve the proposed map and text amendments for properties at 144 and 126 Victoria Road and 229 York Street, and for the neighborhood commercial C7 zone as contained with Appendix A of document 18-104C.
Great, thank you. Can I have a seconder, please? Deputy Mayor Tanner. Discussion. We've had a lot of information through a few meetings on this project. It's quite detailed. I appreciate staff's diligence and quite detailed reporting to us.
30 affordable housing units.
Yeah.
That's good site, good location. Concerned about the setback.
Yeah, so just dealing with the fencing for the setback. Really, I know Mr. Feener is, as our traffic authority, will, look at everything very thoroughly to make sure that we're not creating more havoc on Victoria Road. And if we need to make changes, I know that he has the confidence to come back to council and request any changes that we can do. Councillor McDonald.
Am I correct that there are no balconies on this building?
The photo made it look like the balconies were kind of inset a little bit.
Okay.
Is that how they are? They're kind of
Inside?
inset. They don't stick out. They're just
Okay.
Facing east.
Any further discussion from council? Hearing none, you ready for the question?
Question.
Question is being called. All those in favor? Those opposed? Motion is carried. Councillor Frazier, do you want to read that second motion now?
Sure. Yes, Your Worship. That Town Council for the Town of Bridgewater enter into a development agreement regarding the property located at 144 Victoria Road in a manner similar to the draft development agreement dated January 14, 2019, and that the Mayor and Chief Administrative Officer are hereby authorized to execute this agreement only within the time frame described in the development agreement. Should the document not be signed within the time frame described in the development agreement, Council shall consider any request to sign the development agreement as a new application and follow the entire process required by the Municipal Government Act.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Thorburn. Beat you guys to it. Further discussion?
Question?
Question being called. All those in favor? Those opposed? Motion is carried. I'll just note next steps here. Municipal or the MPS and LUB amendments will be sent to the province for review, 30 days. Once those are approved, both amendments and development agreement must be published in the paper, and that will start a 14-day appeal of the development agreement, and changes takes effect once the period has lapsed without appeal. Okay, so just want to make a note of that. I also want to thank members of the public who come out to 1 or 2 or 3 meetings. It's really important that people do that, and so I hope you know that. I hope you. It's not always easy to stand in front of a television camera and us and speak in the microphone, so I just want to extend my appreciation. So thank you for taking the time out of a busy Monday and coming down. Okay, and you're all still welcome to hang around for the rest of the meeting. It's very exciting. We already dealt with the 2019-2020 budget process. Next item is the Lunenburg County Senior Safeties Program December 2018 report. It's there for review, and as always, I feel like these should be published in the paper so that people get an idea of what is happening in this county and how many people require this service. 76 active clients in December, 10 new referrals just in December, to the 19th of December. Thank you. So not even a full month, and just the scope of the work that's being done. It's an incredible service, and it's probably understaffed and underfinanced. And here I am saying it should be in the paper. Well, we should send a release off or something to local media, because I think it needs to get some traction, because I think it should be something that's expanded in the province and it doesn't get its due. Any questions on the report that's there? No? Okay. Recommendation of the Region 6 Intermunicipal Committee, the 2019-2020 budget. And for the benefit of the public, I'm going to actually ask Councillor Thorburn if he would first very briefly explain what Region 6 is to the public, because it sounds like Area 51, probably.
Well, it probably is, because it takes in the counties of Shelburne, all down to the South Shore, to Chester, and across to the valley. And they meet normally at the Mayor Center in Lunenburg, so it seems to be the meeting place. And I think they meet, what, every 3 months, Tammy? I think it's every 3 months, so. And it's all about recycling solid waste.
Perfect, thank you. So we have to pay our share of the budget, and so this is the recommendation that's been made. So if someone would like to make a motion for us to approve the budget, that would be great.
I move it. Oh, go ahead. Oh, we're fighting over it. I move the Town Council of the Town of Bridgewater endorse the recommendation of Region 6 Intermunicipal Committee and approve the 2019-2020 Region 6 budget in the total amount of $829,018 as presented in document 18-183.
Seconded by Councillor Thorburn. Question, comment? just so the public, that's not our portion of it. We are not approving an expenditure for us of $829,000. We share that cost among all the units in Region 6, as Councillor Thorburn explained. Any other questions? Hearing none, all those in favor? Those opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you. Next item is recommendation of the Director of Planning and Recreation in the renaming of 2 parks. So this, our normal process is Heritage does some work on bringing some names forward. They come to Parks and Recreation and Culture Advisory Committee, and we actually had a great discussion with these and then kind of sent them back for some more information, and they came back and we liked it, and so then it came here. And if someone would like to make a motion, Councillor Thorburn?
I will next. I sit on the Heritage Advisory Committee.
Perfect.
So sounds nice. And we did go back and forth, and it takes quite a bit of effort when we're doing that. The park names go through Parks and Rec, and the street names go through Heritage Advisory. So it's nice they came to us for some help, and we appreciate that. So we work very close together. And I would move that Town Council for the Town of Bridgewater endorse the recommendation of staff and advisory committees that North King Street Park be renamed Glenwood Mill Park, and that the waterfront park be renamed Tannery Park to commemorate the historic significance at each location on the Lahave River.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Vergier. I should have read this probably at the beginning. Waterfront Park is being renamed Tannery Park to recognize the former Hebb's Tannery across the street from the present-day park. And the Glenwood Mill Park, which is the former North King Street Park, is to recognize Glenwood Mill, which was the Davison Lumber Company had a mill in that location. So it's important to recognize our heritage and our history, and so renaming the parks adequately does that. Any questions? If so, you can send them to Councillor Thorburn. All those in favor? Those opposed? Motion is carried. RFP 2018-05 for a forklift. Boy, this didn't end up as it was supposed to. So you have the documentation in front of you. Well, we're not getting a forklift, right? Not from this RFP. So I just have a question, just to jump in. One of the recommendations is that we include auctions. I would assume other municipalities do this as well, and it's kind of, I guess I was a little shocked that we don't already have that in there. So I would hope that we could throw that in there, and if it's everyone else is doing it, then
yeah, just needs a policy amendment to make it happen.
okay, perfect. Councillor
So
Graves.
when you go to an auction, you have the ability to check over the equipment, make sure it's in good shape or relatively good shape, or how does that process work?
Yeah, there is a bit of a process. I mean, I think you have limitations, but sometimes there's information available. Certainly, like hours, engine use, like hours on the engine and things like that, year, all gets taken into consideration. There is, some risk, but typically, what you get the equipment for, the savings outweigh the risk. Okay. An example in this particular case is there were 2 pieces or 2 forklifts available for consideration, and they went for about $10,000 less than what we would pay for a supplier of that year and hours on the engine. So it's potentially savings.
Okay, good.
And if we go through the motion and make amendments to policy 79 to enable auctions as an alternative procurement method, doesn't mean just for forklifts, right? It means for everything.
Yeah.
All right. I just want to make sure, because the gears are turning of all the things we can save money. So, Councillor McDonald.
When it comes to equipment that engineering would use, do we have staff that have the knowledge base that they might need to look at a piece of equipment and know what kind of condition it's in? And I don't think we have mechanics, right?
That's correct. In this particular case, our mechanic would normally be involved in that, and you know, at least one other individual that's, I'll say, used to purchasing equipment and such.
Okay, so we do have people with mechanical.
Yes, we have a
training
mechanic
yeah.
on staff.
Yeah.
I think our equipment experts are in the gallery, potentially. All right, we've got some motions here, so if someone would prepare to make a motion, Councillor Graves, please.
I move the Town Council for the Town of Bridgewater not award RFP 2018-05 and advise staff to notify both proponents as per document 18-186.
Right, thank you. Seconded by Councillor Frazier. Be a little quicker, right? All those in favor? Those opposed? Motion is carried. Next motion there.
I move the Town Council for the Town of Bridgewater give notice pursuant to Section 48 of the Municipal Government Act that at the January 28th, 2000, January 28th, 2019 Council meeting amendments to Policy 79 purchasing and tendering will be considered to enable auctions as an alternative procurement method.
All right. No, just we're looking at the.
Oh, you have to give yourself.
You have to give your 7 days notice? Okay. I was doing the same thing you were with the date, wondering what the date. Okay,
Yeah.
we just have to give notice. Seconded by Councillor Thorburn. Any questions on that? Nope. No, all those in favor? Those opposed? And then we did miss one there, directing staff to seek alternate options.
Oh, sorry about that.
Councillor Frazier, want to make that?
Yes, the Town Council for the Town of Bridgewater directs staff to seek alternate options and purchase a used forklift, provided it is within the approved budget of $20,000.
Great, thank you. Seconded by Deputy Mayor Tanner. Further discussion? Yes?
What's a new one worth?
In the
Double?
range of 50,000.
Yeah, okay.
Used is good.
A lot of few use forklifts lately.
All right. All those in favor? Those opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you very much. Our next item is our monthly permit report for permits report for November and December 2018. Another phenomenal year in the town of Bridgewater. We just continue to be one of, if not the fastest growing town in this province. So kudos to council, kudos to staff, kudos to public. I was just talking to Councillor McGinnis the other day, who has new neighbors coming that are going to live in Bridgewater and commute to Halifax because they would rather live in Bridgewater because of the changes that are happening in this community. So we'll take it. So that's great. And so to see another year where building permits are up, I think it's fantastic.
Perhaps these commuters could take the bus.
Perhaps. And if you take the bus, Councillor Graves will be there and he will welcome you. I might take it to the city on Wednesday. I'm not sure yet. I'm thinking about it. So, building permits are there. If you have any questions, Mr. Feener can help you. Next item is contract number, and I'm not going to read the number, wastewater treatment plant upgrades, and we're borrowing some money. So I don't know who wants to talk about that first, the person who wants to talk about the upgrades or the person who wants to talk about the money, or neither.
Perhaps I'll try both. Don't correct me when I'm wrong. So on December 13th, our consultant CBCL Limited received 3 tenders for the upgrades to the wastewater treatment plant, which includes the anaerobic digester cover and belt filter press replacement. The approved budget is $1.554 million, with $1.125 million funded through the Clean Water Wastewater Fund, and the town debt funding the remaining $429,000. The lowest price tender submitted by Mid-Valley Construction Limited was $1,579,540 plus HST, who confirmed a revised construction schedule that could meet the funding deadline. In order to fund this project, council would need to approve an increase to the current capital budget to include the costs of the entire project. Staff would like to note that the anticipated debt for the King Street project that was replaced by this project was $745,000 versus the proposed new debt of $829,000, which is a difference of only $84,000. I shouldn't say only, but $84,000, not the $400,000 that's suggested. Staff are recommending that council approve a revised budget of $1.954 million and award the tender to the lowest submission from Mid-Valley Construction Limited.
Wow, you did a great job. Yeah. You didn't need to come today, Don. Questions of the town engineer / director of finance? No. Questions from council before we debate it.
So just it's the $400,000. The tender almost comes in at the budget, the budget amount. So where's the $400,000 going again? Is that clear, or am I missing something?
So the other components of the project.
So this was a two-step process at one point?
Well, it would include the design, or what's not shown in the tender. The tender is for the replacement, so purchasing the equipment and the installation. So what's not there is like the design fees, contract admin, so the engineering. There's going to be some sludge disposal fees and things like that.
So why wasn't the whole thing packaged together at the original, when it was originally put out?
Well, engineering and design is different type of work, and sludge, there's components that we feel we can do more economical.
But we're not getting any cost sharing, are we, for that component, the engineering component?
Engineering, yes.
We are.
Sludge disposal, not so much.
Not so much, okay.
But any overage isn't cost shared.
Yeah, that's right.
Councilor Brashear.
So the consulting firm mentioned about the time frame, the weeks to complete being 65. Is there any negotiation there for the time frame, just concerned about overruns for the project, or?
Yes, we expressed concerns with the funding deadline of March 2020, and the contractor confirmed that they would be completed prior to that.
Okay, and that you feel can be met. Okay.
I'm going to ask if, unless Councilor McDonald wants to, because I met with council last week. We all had these discussions. So the question would be, are we able to put any penalties in place for exceeding the timeline?
There have not been penalties put in place for this particular tender. This question comes up periodically, and typically if we're putting penalties in, we would also have to put in bonus clauses. So, you know, it may cost more if it gets completed prior to the anticipated deadline if there's a bonus clause, and of course the risk with penalty clause, you know, if it's not completed on time.
But we would have to have that within our tender documents themselves, so
Too late now.
Yeah.
Okay. Councilor Thorburn.
I do know there, even in 2008, when we bought that new fire truck, we had that penalty clause in that contract, and the town received a little over $100,000 because it was so late getting that truck. So I think it can be a good thing, and that brings commitment to the supplier to meet our deadlines. If not, and I don't think it would have a negative effect on the tender package if it was written in, and I think that should be written into some of the tenders.
So perhaps it's something that can come to council for large projects before you go out to tender, to just say, you know, this is whatever. Let's just pick a project. We're going to do High Street. It's going to be $2 million. Would you like this tender to go out with penalty clauses, recognizing that they're going to come back and want bonus clauses or something? And then maybe it's worth having the discussion before it goes out. And if council debates and decides which way to go, then we have to live with the decision one way or another. Just maybe that's sorry, Councilor McDonald first, then Councilor Thorburn.
To kind of add to that, I think the impact that it has on businesses and residents is important as well. A project like King Street, that had so much impact on small businesses. Had it gone extremely over time or something like that, it continues to have that impact on businesses. So I think encouraging the project to be completed on time is really important in those cases.
Yeah.
And I don't mean, Larry, I didn't bring that up negatively, but I think some projects should have time constraints on it because it's important for us and important for our residents. And I don't want to see that with every tender. I think that would bog you down. But I think if we're concerned about time restraints and meeting our commitments to our residents, then we should try and guarantee it where we can. And that's the only thing.
Yeah, and to Councillor McDonald's point, a street project that disrupts a neighborhood is different than other projects that perhaps kind of happen and the public isn't, they just happen. Councillor Graves.
Maybe just find out what the percentage of projects that doesn't, finish on time. I don't think, we're not talking a large number of projects that are late, are we?
Yeah, I don't know. I certainly was interested just based on, there's funding deadlines for things. So I was more worried about what happens if we exceed that timeline. Do we lose funding? Obviously, we can't do anything about it now because the tender's already gone out.
Sometimes I know that there's been capital projects where there's funding deadlines and they do give you extensions because of circumstances beyond your control, but not always. So you can't fall back on that, but it has, they've come.
Okay. Is someone prepared to put a motion on the floor? Councillor Thorburn, thank you.
I would move that Town Council for the Town of Bridgewater endorse a recommendation of staff and approve a revised 2018-19 capital budget for the wastewater treatment plant upgrades in the amount of $1,954,000, including increased borrowing of $400,000, totaling $829,000, and award contract number 170802.01 Bridgewater wastewater treatment plant upgrades to the lowest bidder, Mid-Valley Construction 1997 Limited, in the amount of $1,579,540 plus HST $1,647,239.08 net HST.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Frazier. Further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Those opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you. Our next item under business arising and unfinished business is the sale of surplus property, 93 Dominion Street. Do you want to speak to that?
Yeah. So council deemed this property to be surplus to their needs and directed us to do a public procurement process in terms of soliciting interest in the property. So that was done through a proposal call, and we did that over the month of December. And one proposal was received, and that was from the Bridgewater Masonic Society, and that was in the amount of $94,522.17. The Municipal Government Act states that we can sell property to a for-profit for market value and non-for-profit if they're providing a service that's deemed essential to us for less than market value. In this case, we've received a proposal that exceeds market value. Market value was deemed to be $80,000 based on the appraisal we had done. So in terms of the proposal that was received, we had some conditions in the RFP that we asked the proponent to consider and satisfy. And those are listed in the report. So we said as is, where is, we're making no warranties as the condition of the building or the property, and they acknowledged that. And that term would be incorporated into an agreement of purchase and sale. They met the market value requirement. We wanted to have the town have right of first refusal, so if they decide to sell, we get the first opportunity to buy back, and that would of course be at market value. And we asked that they accommodate the Girl Guides until August 2019, and they've agreed to that. They've indicated they could use the facility rent-free until August 2019, and then they would look at renting it to them at a cost that would equal the monthly operating cost for the building, and that they would sponsor the Girl Guides in some form for a period of 2 years to help them transition. So the proposal only asked that they accommodate them to August 2019, and that was based on correspondence that was received from the Girl Guides of Canada. They had some conditions that they indicated in their proposal. They wanted to have the building conveyed before May 31st, 2019. That shouldn't be an issue, so there's no concerns there. And they wanted to be able to use parking behind the fire hall during meeting nights and special events. So I did talk to the fire chief, and Chief Noss suggested that wouldn't be an issue at all. They do have designated parking for firefighters, but beyond that, they had no concerns. I did discuss the results of the proposal with the Girl Guides to ensure that there were no concerns. In my report, I note to council that the direction from council essentially was purchase price less the legal and survey cost to convey the property to the Girl Guides. The net proceeds would be given to the Girl Guides in the form of a grant. Since then, we've had some costs with sewer on the property related to the property, and that the costs haven't come in finally yet, but that's around $3,000. So that was something that was offered to council as you might want to consider recovering that cost too. So they do have concerns about that. I did indicate to them that that was something that when council made their motion back in September, of course, that wasn't a factor at the time. It was a new cost that was incurred related to the property, but I did relay to them that I would let council know that they had concerns about tagging on recovering the sewer repair cost. So at this point in time, the motion that's before council is to award the proposal call, and that would be for the amount that's been offered, purchase price of $94,522.17, and that would be less our legal cost. And we have a decision to make about the sewer. And we would have an agreement of sale drafted that would contain the conditions the proposal call had, as well as the conditions that the proponent had proposed to us, which were minor really. And then we would have that ready for execution. And that would all be subject to us being able to obtain a release of interest from the Girl Guides for the same property in a form that's suitable to legal counsel. So we can't migrate the property because they have an interest in it. And we're holding it essentially in trust. So there's a legal document that has to be done to release that interest, and then we can migrate the property and give them good title to convey it to them. There is no motion here with respects to the amount that we give the Girl Guides, and that would be brought back to council once we finalize all of the legal costs and the survey cost. Then we know the exact dollar amount, and that would be in the form of a grant that council would have to give the Girl Guides. So when we take the sale funds, those have to go into a capital reserve. The Municipal Government Act requires that when we sell land. And then we would use the operating reserve, because we haven't budgeted for this grant, to provide a grant to the Girl Guides, and the difference between the amount that we get and our cost to sell it to them.
So at that time, we discussed the sewer issue?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'd have the cost for you at that time. Yeah.
Thank you.
Finalized.
All right. Is someone prepared to make a motion, and we can discuss it?
I would move that Town Council for the Town of Bridgewater award the proposal call for the sale of 93 Dominion Street to the Bridgewater Masonic Society for the purchase price of $94,522.17, and direct staff to have an agreement of purchase sale drafted for execution by both parties that contains the conditions within the proposal call and submission, as well as a condition regarding the town obtain a condition requiring that the town obtain a release of interest from the Girl Guides for the same property in a form suitable to legal counsel.
Thank you. Can I have a seconder, please? Councillor Graves. Discussion? Deputy Mayor Tanner?
Or a question, I don't know if it can be answered here tonight, but can the Girl Guides reasonably withhold release of interest?
That I'd have to ask JC, our legal counsel, that question about, they could try, but what's the likelihood of success?
Okay.
I'm not too sure. I think they probably, I think the arrangement that we have might encourage them not to do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the grant will go to Girl Guides Canada.
Yeah.
Girl Guides Canada will then do what they...
Yeah, and I believe they already discussed what percentage they were getting. I know that this was an emotional story. If you recall, we had a young lady come to speak to council. She spoke very well and very passionately. I'm looking at this as a good news win-win story. The reality is that Girl Guides Canada is divesting itself, as other organizations are, of property. The town does not traditionally provide facilities for one specific organization at the taxpayers' cost. Our facilities are generally public multi-use facilities, and with an aging building, it was going to be something that we couldn't bear the cost of, and Girl Guides couldn't bear the cost of, and so for a local community organization to step up and purchase the building and have an agreement that allows the Girl Guides to stay. I mean, it is really a good news win-win story. So thanks to staff for putting this together, and thanks to the organizations for coming together and working that out. So I hope it is presented as a good news story when the media gets it. Councillor Thorburn.
It's an awesome news story, and it is great. And this is not the first time this happened. I know that the volunteer groups now with the Asian population are joining partnerships. I know the Legion up in New Germany, I believe, has been sold given to the Lions Club for $1, but they can stay there. So partnering together and sharing facilities makes a lot more sense than one club's struggling and can't afford it. So this is really a good news story.
I agree. Thank you. Any further discussion? Nope. Hearing none. All those in favor? Those opposed? Motion is carried. Next item is ratification of the collective agreement, QP Local 102. I don't know if there's, did you have anything to add?
Just that the agreement that was negotiated was as per the direction that we got from council the last time we did our check-in, and that was primarily on the monetary changes to the collective agreement. So those are noted in the report for you. Good news is it's a 4-year contract, and the last one was 3 years. 2% increase in wages each year, and that'd be retroactive to April 1, 2018. The contract expired last March. And our vacation entitlement on par with non-union, and the on-call pay increase from 150 to 250 per hour, or sorry, 150 to 250, not per hour. Well. And that would be effective on the execution of the collective agreement as well. And the union has agreed to the changes. They voted on that, and that's been approved. So what you have in your agenda is basically a temporary agreement that sets out the terms that were agreed to during negotiation. If approved by council, then we'll have the final collective agreement, and as long as there's no changes in wording, it'll be executed. And that'll be that.
Good. Yeah, and thanks to staff for coming together and hammering that out. That's great. Is someone prepared to make a motion? Councillor Fagier.
Yes, that Town Council for the Town of Bridgewater ratify the tentative settlement, thereby approving the revised agreement between QB Local 1092 and the Town of Bridgewater, and authorize execution of the same.
Seconded by Councillor McDonald. Further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Those opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you. Next item is home support group parking. So this item was brought forward, I believe, by Councillor Graves some time ago about some questions regarding additional spaces for group home parking on Pleasant Street. And so Traffic Authority reviewed it and kind of came back. And so there is a motion in there because we moved to direct staff to bring us back some information, so it's there. So
it's group home staff parking.
Yes. Sorry, I should have clarified that. Yeah. So I mean, the motion that's in there, we haven't made the motion, but why don't we do that and then we can discuss it. It sounds weird to say I'm going to do something with a motion if it hasn't been made. So Deputy Mayor Tainer.
I move the Town Council for the Town of Bridgewater direct staff to maintain the 2 dedicated permit spaces for use by Support Services Group, and that staff advise the property owner of 66/72 Pleasant Street to provide a parking solution per the requirement of the development agreement.
All right, thank you. Seconded by Councillor Thorburn. Discussion.
So this particular group has numerous employees that work with the residents on Pleasant Street. These residents are individuals that have intellectual and physical difficulties, and it is quite common for a support worker to be called to the building to settle a dispute or to solve a problem, and they may be only in there 10-15 minutes, so they're not really. Sometimes there are fixed scheduled calls, but other times it's an emergency. Go in, help the problem or solve the problem, and then leave again. And what they were finding is that when Pleasant Street is busy and their parking spaces, their 2 dedicated parking spaces are taken, that the individuals then have to pay for their own parking out of their own pocket, and they're not reimbursed. So you can imagine over the course of a year, that can add up for people that are, trying to do their job. It just adds up. So the original hope was that if there is somebody that has a designated tag, and there are, I believe, 25 or 26 that were given to all the staff members, that if they do have a tag, and that tag is in a non-designated parking spot, that town bylaw enforcement would give them a pass and let them park, get their job done, and leave. Many of these people have disabilities, so to ask them to walk down to Pleasant Street or other places that are too far, it's just hard on them. So that's the hope. So I will be voting against the motion.
Mr. Feener, just correct me if I'm wrong. The buildings in question have underground parking as well?
Correct.
Yeah. Okay.
But a lot of these people don't have access to the parking lot because of the nature of the building. They're not given a parking spot because they can't drive.
Right. So, I mean, I'll just be speaking that I'm speaking in favor of the motion because to me, this is an issue that the owner of the building should be taking care of his tenants. And in order to take care of his tenants, they should be supplying adequate parking. And if that means giving access to the underground parking to the home support workers, which I would think would be the ideal situation, because then no matter what the weather is, they're dry, they're warm. I don't think that underground parking is fully utilized because I don't think there are that many people in the building that have a vehicle. So I think there's spaces available. And I personally would rather see the owner of the building put some effort into trying to come up with a solution that serves his or her tenants the best. So I will be supporting the motion. Any other discussion? Deputy Mayor Tanner.
Well, I guess sort of related to this. So we've issued a development agreement to meet certain requirements, and it seems to happen occasionally around town as well. That, like, what's the check to make sure that the developer ultimately delivers on the development agreement, the specific follow through or the requirements? So, and I won't name any developments, but there are some developments around that haven't quite the project's completed, but they haven't quite completed all the requirements that we've had of them, if that makes sense. Does that make sense?
There is we review and
Yeah.
we inspect, and there are timeframes within which they have to complete some of those milestones, and
So
if not, then we take
What would be a time frame? A year?
a
2
year
years?
after occupancy or a year after start of construction. It depends on what the element is that you might be
And
talking
what's the
about.
recourse if they don't meet those requirements?
We can remedy the situation and lean the cost back on the property.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. All right.
Further discussion? Councilor McDonald.
I certainly see what Councillor Graves is getting at, that these people need to do their job. It's important that they have access to the building to do their job. But I think I agree that the taxpayers of Bridgewater, although it would not be at any major cost, if we allow kind of these responsibilities to fall to the town or the taxpayers, I think there are going to be more and more of them. I think it is the employer and the building owner that need to come together and make sure that these people are fully supported. That is their role, that is their job. And if they, between them, they've tried everything they can and they still need support from the town, I'd be more than happy to hear from them.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, I totally sympathize. I'm just, it frustrates me that the go-to is the town will fix it, right? whether it's a private land issue or a dispute between a landlord and a tenant, or a home care worker who needs to get into a building, that, you know, it's obvious to me that that a landlord, that's in their best interest to have their tenants taken care of. It frustrates me that the go-to is, we'll get town council to make somebody do something else for us instead of stepping up and doing what is their job. So hopefully, if the motion passes, because we are, I gotta put my glasses on. This is the life I'm leading now. So we're directing staff to advise the property owner to provide a parking solution. So to me, it requires a little bit of a strongly worded letter that says you need to provide a parking solution. Now, we hope you can. Now, Pat's sitting back there, and he'd be like, well, I'm going to rewrite that for you, David, because I'm not always the best. I always like come out of the gate a little quick, but they need to come up with a solution, and so I see the motion as kind of getting what Councillor Graves wants, but putting the onus on someone else to do it. They need to come up with a solution. If they come back and there's no solution, then we'll have to address that. Councillor Thorburn.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you. When those were built, they were low-income owners. Most of them didn't have vehicles, and it was a walkable area to build a project like that. And we've provided all of that, so I think the owner has to have some responsibility for people coming there to look after their residents. They have to show some responsibility, so I will be supporting the motion.
Any further discussion?
Question.
Question being called. All those in favor? Those opposed? Motion is carried. Good discussion. Thank you, everybody. Next item is land acquisition at 685 King Street. And so for those who don't know, this is the town center parking lot where the Bridgewater Farmers Market is. And so did you want to add anything to that?
Just that attached to is the council's already agreed to the price that's been offered by the Town Center Development Corporation at $40,000, and we were directed to bring back an agreement of purchase and sale. So that's what you have here tonight, and so we would need a motion in order to motion approving that and authorizing execution so that we can move forward with the sale or the purchase of that land. And as noted, once we lease it right now for, I believe it's $3,500 or thereabouts. When we own it, we, of course, maintenance and all that will be our responsibility, and those numbers were provided to council already. But so we brought it up to, I think, land use bylaw standards. Mr. Feener gave it around a $70,000 price tag, but that's if we brought it up to the top of the line standard, and we don't have to do that. We can do some maintenance on that and maintain the parking lot. It was considered to be an important asset in the town for its parking infrastructure.
And it's important to remember that even while we were renting it, we were responsible for all the maintenance of it anyway. So we were maintaining it and leasing it. So now we're maintaining something we own. Is someone prepared to make a motion? Councillor Graves.
I move that Town Council for the Town of Bridgewater direct the Chief Administrative Officer to enter the attached agreement of purchase and sale for the acquisition of PID number 600-28180 at a purchase price of $40,000 plus HST, with funding provided by the capital reserves.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Thorburn. Further discussion?
Question.
Question being called. All those in favor? Those opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you. New business, Investing in Canada Infrastructure Fund. The call for applications. So we had quite a robust discussion on this. Did you?
A little bit of a change.
A little bit of change.
A little bit of change from our discussion session when we wanted to bounce around some ideas about what infrastructure projects we should be looking at. We can have two. And the deadline is January 18th, which is why we had some discussions on our discussion session. So at the discussion session, we decided that council had talked about using our wastewater treatment plant upgrade project, which had a price tag of, I believe, $8.9 million. and breaking that into 2 applications. We had originally broken it into 4 phases, and then we had another project. The other project was a lot lower. So I did talk to Municipal Affairs about the approach of having the 1 project and making it 2 applications, and their advice to us was do 1 application and just break it into 2 phases. Because the likelihood of getting the 2 applications, so the likelihood of getting phase 2 approved would be nil if you did, or close to nil if you did the 2 separate applications. But if you did 1 application with the 2 phases, then you could have a chance of getting both phases approved under that 1 application, because they tend to look at application numbers a little bit more than perhaps the dollar value sometimes. So that's why you see in front of you a little bit of a different wording in the motion, suggesting that we just do the 1 application and we have it in 2 phases, and the 2 phases together would be the 8.9 million. And of course we would propose this project because it does address environmental issues that we have concerns with overflows, and it also addresses our ability to accommodate new growth, which is important for the town.
Great, thank you. This is one of our challenges. Pick a town in the country and you have infrastructure challenges. We're not unique in that regard. What we are unique with is that we are growing. Not every community in Nova Scotia is growing. And so the upside of growing is you have new people, new taxpayers, new services. That's great. For us, that stresses our current infrastructure. And so we cannot fund this ourselves. This will be the first of my many rants in 2019 about how we pay for our stuff and we pay for other municipalities' stuff. So we pay for our infrastructure and then we subsidize roads and subsidize policing for rural communities across this province who do not in turn subsidize ours. So applications like this are the only way that we can move these projects forward. So what's the date? Mark this down. Then the 14th of January. That was my first of what'll be hundreds of rants about fairness of money and sending money where money is needed. Someone prepared to make a motion? After all that, Councillor Frazier, thank you.
Yes, Your Worship. Town Council for the Town of Bridgewater approved the following infrastructure projects for application under the Invest in Canada Infrastructure Program. Wastewater system upgrade with preliminary cost of $8.9 million and the proposed phasing outlined in document 18-180A. Replace pump station number 11 and install direct force main to the treatment plant. Gravity sewer from pump station 4 to pump station 11 and redirect flow from pump station 4 to new pump station 11.
Thank you. Seconded by Deputy Mayor Tanner. Further discussion? Hearing, Councilor McDonald, that's okay.
Does this keep us within a reasonable dollar amount? I mean, we don't want to price ourselves out of.
In terms of our ask?
Yes, yeah.
Well,
it doesn't matter. We need
so much that they say forget them, right?
Well, no. If we do when we break it into phases, the first phase would have roughly about $5.5 million as the total project cost. So we'd be asking for just over $75,000 of that to be funded by provincial and federal.
Right.
No, I think that would be probably
75%.
Or sorry, yeah, 75%. That would be within the range that probably they would entertain. I got the feeling that 8.9 was too much. But once again, I think it comes down to our ability to demonstrate the need for this particular project. So the argument we make for how this is the environmental and the ability to accommodate growth, like really narrowing in on those 2 factors, I think would be important for this one. She didn't seem to, when I talked to her the other day and told her the amounts, her recommendation was 1 application, 2 phases, so she knew what we were talking about.
Okay.
Councillor Graves.
Tammy, when you mentioned demonstrate the need, does somebody come down or is it over the phone? Like, does somebody come down, you show the pump,
it's in the application.
It's in the application, so that's it.
Yeah, so the application does take some time for staff to prepare, so Larry's working on that right now. But the wording in the document and the supporting documentation that we submit with that. So we have our sanitary sewer master plan study that's been done that, you know, shows that we've taken a comprehensive look at our system and that there are some issues that need to be resolved before we can move forward. So all those things help the application. So she thought submitting those things would be important too. And then I think meeting with our local representatives too, to our MOAs and our MP to make them aware of our application and the need will be important too.
Good. Councillor Thorburn.
Tammy, I don't know how to ask this, but I want to make sure that when you put the proposal together, that the prices we put in that proposal reflect the ability us to do the project and not be undercut by $400,000 or $500,000 when it comes back, like the King Street one did, and so many do that.
Yeah.
So who was actually putting the prices in there? Do we have a consultant? Is our own group
So
specialist putting it in?
We, engineering had a sanitary sewer master plan study done that gave some high-level estimates in terms of cost.
Sure.
So those are plus or minus, about 30%, would you say? And those are the numbers that we're using because that's the best that we have right now.
Are we using a high end?
Well, it's
Hopefully.
the one number they gave us, so
All right.
that would be plus 30%.
Good.
Is usually what that is. The Class D type numbers that we're working with.
Yeah.
So that they're probably high, and but it all depends on when we go to market too, right? There's a lot of factors that influence what your tenders come in.
We have a lot of probably high stuff that goes in, but we have probably a lot of low stuff when it comes back out because we seem to be adding money to the projects, whether it's York Street or King Street or Empire Street or whatever.
In terms of change orders and
Yeah.
stuff?
Yeah. Okay.
Further discussion? Question being called. All those in favor? Those opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you. Next item is Public Service Commission temporary borrowing resolution guarantee. So this was dealt with at the Public Service Commission, but the town comes to the town because we guarantee it. So I know that. Sorry?
They can't borrow unless the town guarantees it.
So I know for a fact that Councillor Thorburn loves doing motions where there's a lot of whereases and therefore be it resolved. So would you like to make that motion?
I would move that whereas the Public Service Commission of Bridgewater is a body corporate pursuant to the provisions of Chapter 59 of the Statutes of Nova Scotia, 1993, and whereas the said Public Service Commission of Bridgewater is resolved to borrow by the issue and sale of debentures the sum of $770,000 for the purpose of water systems, and whereas the said Public Service Commission of Bridgewater has requested the town of Bridgewater to guarantee the principal and interest of the said debentures when sold pursuant to Section 60, subsection 4 of the Municipal Government Act, be it therefore resolved that the subject to the approval of the Minister of Municipal Affairs, the town of Bridgewater guarantee the principal and interest of debentures of the Public Service Commission of Bridgewater in the amount not exceeding $770,000 when issued and sold, and that the mayor and clerk be authorized to do all things and execute all documents necessary to give effect to this resolution.
Thank you. It is as if Morgan Freeman himself read that. Can I have a seconder, please? Seconded by Councillor Frazier. You do like reading those ones. I know you do. He does.
More numbers are better. I love numbers.
All right. Remember that with budget time.
Yeah. No worries.
Any discussion?
Question.
Question being called. All those in favor? Those opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you. Our last order of business, Federation of Canadian Municipalities 2019 conference this year is in Quebec City, and we traditionally don't appoint our members till later. And then what tends to happen is when they go to pick the, I was going to say events, but it's not events, but not even the accommodations, but if they pick the venues that the topics that they want to go, that's the one I'm looking for, topics, they're full because we don't know who's going and you have to register. So I thought we would at least name our delegates so that they can start the ball rolling, and as soon as they open up the registration, because it's not open yet, it's supposed to be this week or next, they can register, book accommodations, and so on. So, someone has to go.
Well, just a comment. Having been to one of these, I really sincerely think that somebody from management should be there, staff. I really do.
Yeah, that's actually a discussion I had with a couple of members of council when we talked last week, was at the very least, even if they came to that trade show that has hundreds and hundreds of vendors with technology that otherwise doesn't come this way, I would agree wholeheartedly that there's, I mean, if I look at MODL, traditionally, or at least the last few, took staff with them. Other municipalities I saw had engineering staff, or depending on the issue that they were facing at the time, they would send a member of staff. So they wouldn't need to be a delegate that would go to the different tracks, so that could be dealt with probably internally within the staff budget. But that's a very good point, and one that came up a number of times in the meetings with council.
I think it would be a good investment.
I agree. So traditionally, we would send the mayor and one other member of council to an event outside of the province. So I don't know if we just whittle down who does not want to go. Okay, Councilor Graves.
I would be interested in going, but I do have to ask for approval for the time off of work before I could say I'm definitely able to go.
Okay, is anyone else not? Oh, you want?
Well, if Councilor McDonald can't get the time off work, then that'd be interesting attending.
Okay. Councilor Thorpe, are you interested in going?
No, I have a bunch of stuff in that time frame that more volunteer.
Okay. Councilor McGuinness traditionally does not go to the FCM. Councilor Frazier, are you?
I'm open to have somebody else go, because I've gone previous time. So.
Okay. So do we want to make a motion that, well, you guys can figure out which one wants to go, and then the motion can include if. Yeah, we can do that.
Yeah.
Just leave it as it is written, and then
Yeah.
you two can, I don't mean to point, Councilor McDonald and Deputy Mayor Tanner, you guys can sort out who it is and just advise council. Does that work for the members of council?
Great for me, and I'll put the motion forward.
Please, thank you.
The town council of Bridgewater appoint the mayor and one other council member to be named as delegates for the 2019 FCM conference, and that the registration, accommodations, travel, and other reasonable expenses be approved.
Thank you. Seconded by Councilor Frazier. Further discussion?
Question.
Hearing none. All those in favor? Those opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you. That concludes the meeting. Just before we adjourn, I would be remiss if I did not congratulate our Member of Parliament, Bernadette Jordan, for her new cabinet appointment as Minister of Rural Economic Development. This is great for Mrs. Jordan. It's great for our riding, for our region, for our community. As the town, I'm probably going to upset the other mayors in the region, but as the town that is the economic engine of the South Shore, the rural economy that's us. We are a big piece of, not the only piece, but we are a big piece of the rural economy in southwestern Nova Scotia. And so to have that minister in our riding is exciting, and it's fantastic news, and congratulate Mrs. Jordan on that. That's fantastic.
It should also be noted that Ms. Jordan is also the first female cabinet minister from Nova Scotia, which is also great.
That's great, and I think the first cabinet minister since 1993. The last federal cabinet minister from this riding was in Kim Campbell's government, so that was short. So it's been a while, and so yeah, it's exciting times for all of us because of Mrs. Jordan. So congratulations to her. And motion to adjourn, please. Deputy Mayor Tanner, seconded by Councilor Thorpe. We are adjourned. Thank you.